Thanks, everyone. We're going to be talking about this fascinating topic that I hope you will see features very nicely with the themes of the morning. Because what Ali and I are hoping to convey to you is this idea that I call really the bed for progressive growth. And that's nothing other than some of the themes that you've been hearing. It's really about driving your business in a way that's good for the people and the planet. And so I'm the CMO of Diageo. As Stefan said, sometimes people know us more for our brands rather than the name of our company. But we sell lots of brands around many, many countries. And I thought I'll show you a video where you're going to hopefully recognize some of these iconic brands that I spend my days and some nights thinking about. There we go. I should say for the Turkish members of the audience that one brand that isn't featured, but I know is very much loved in this country is Yeni Raki. And I know that we've got some of the team here. And so, look, we also talked about purpose, and I want to talk a little bit about purpose. This is the purpose that was written when Diageo was first formed as an organization. So the company was only formed 25 years ago. But of course, these brands have been in the world, or many of them, for decades, if not centuries. So these few words were put together, and we said the purpose of Diageo, I wasn't there at the time, is to celebrate life every day, everywhere. And look, I'm sure in your respective companies, there will be words that people sometimes may feel like they're nice words in a booklet, but I really encourage you and invite you to consider those words meaningfully and truly bring them to the center of your everyday. In this instance, celebrating life is what we think about and how we innovate, how we think about digital, how we think about sustainability, and certainly how we think about inclusivity. It's about every day, everywhere, and sometimes we also say, and for everyone. So, inclusion is at the heart of who we are as a company, and this concept has really been evolving over time. This is a picture that I thought I'll show you today. It was taken on my iPhone on International Women's Day at an event that we held in London. And these other ladies that are with me in this picture are the new CEO. She's going to start on the 1st of July, the CFO of the company, the HRD of the company, President of India, President of Europe, and the President of North America, who is also a woman, was not in London with us. So there's 7 of us in that executive team. So it's more than 50% female executive committee at Diageo right now. And, this is not just for the sake of a picture. Truly, we're known for many things. I'll just mention a couple, but one of them that I think it's been really transformational is the parental leave, where we have a 6-month paid parental leave for both moms and dads, truly paid everywhere in the world. So that's one of them. It gets recognized, and it makes a difference. So that's a little bit of the context of the company that I work for and how do we think about inclusion, how core it is to what we do every day. And yet when we think about the landscape of what is inclusive portrayal in the world right now, there's to some degree still some conflicting data points. One of them is, of course, this is a hugely motivating, engaging topic. And I always, when I talk to marketing teams, certainly at Diageo, and in other companies, this is something that people truly care about. And I know that many of you are working on this already very hard and really aiming to make a difference. However, when consumers are asked, and these are some stats from a study that was run in 2021, consumers still say that they don't feel completely represented and they would like to see more diversity in the work that we put out in the world. So the degree to which we are making this effort is not being reciprocated by the acknowledgement by consumers. So you could look at this as a challenge. I choose to look at it as an opportunity. There's more for us to do. The last couple of stats have to do with, and this works. So this idea that doing good business and actually driving performance are intrinsically linked together has been proven a number of times, and I know Ali is going to talk more about that. But there's a lot more to do. And I suppose when you think about what's the future of marketing, what marketeers should do, this topic may feel at times like we've talked about it a few times, maybe it's done. Just bear in mind, it's not done. We're not quite there yet. And in fact, I would argue the subject is not finished by gender or ethnicity. There's a lot more about how do we present ourselves and our brands and the work in a truly, truly inclusive way. So I did this, we put together this very simple flywheel, which I will try to bring to life with a couple of examples. But I guess my argument is that inclusivity actually drives creativity, creativity drives inclusivity, and at the heart of all of that is purpose. Whichever purpose works for you, whichever purpose is appropriate to your business. And all of that in turn drives real growth for the business. So I'll show you, I thought I'll bring a couple of examples. One is on our very famous Scotch brand, Johnnie Walker. I've worked in this brand for many, many years before I became CMO of Diageo. And the picture on the left-hand side of the screen, it's a picture that I think I'm actually responsible for. And there's really nothing wrong with that picture. It's just that, years back, we had too many of pictures of this kind. And so the content that we were putting out in the world, you could argue, was really focused on having our whiskey be very appealing, mostly to men. And this kind of man, not just any man. And so really the consideration at that point of what does it mean to really be inclusive and having inclusivity at the heart of what we do led to a series of changes. I thought I'll bring you a couple of different iterations of how that looked like, but truly it's about having the notion of inclusivity really at the heart of everything, from how do we think about the consumer, who are we targeting, how do we think about the content that we put out there, who's producing that content, and how it shows up in the world. I'll show you two examples. One is from a piece of work that we did in Africa. The other one is a piece of work that we did in North America. Very different, but I hope you will see that there's inclusive thinking behind these two sets of work. Let's have a look at the Africa piece first.
We are who we are. Beautifully African.
Whatever we are doing now is going to reflect in the future.
We thank those who came before us, and we pave a path for those who come after. We keep walking.
That's a piece of work that we did. This is part of a large piece of content, documentary featuring artists, a number of very cool and well-known people across many markets in the African continent. The second piece is actually a piece of work that we did in the US, where one of the people that we were working with, Brittany Howard, she's a singer, and an author, really worked with another singer to create the anthem for a football team, a soccer team, that is female-owned, female-founded, female-owned, and female-run. It's from Los Angeles, Angel City, and this is the video where they tell the story of what it means for them to write the song that is the anthem for this football club.
I'm Brittany Howard.
And I'm Tia P.
And we're here with Johnny Walker to create the official hype anthem for Angel City Football Club.
Yes, beautiful people. Do you know what's better than putting on for your city? Is your city putting on for you? Yeah, the city putting on for you. Yeah, see the real, recognize the truth. And now you, and now I'm running with the angels.
We worked on this song together, me, Tia P, Mike Elizondo. We worked on it together to inspire the Angel City Football Club, all of these amazing women, human beings on this team that want to start something new, start the progress, equal pay for the women on the team, saying like, we don't need to play by your rules anymore. The early inspiration for me was HBCUs, because when I was in marching band, we would watch the videos, and I always thought, like, I want to be in a marching band like that. I want the swerve, and I want the modern songs and their take on them and things like that. I just knew that's what it needed to be because it had the energy. Makes you feel elevated.
Let's go. Your man-made rules don't apply to me. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Our dreams turned into realities. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You guys got this in the bag. You got a whole city behind you, your girl included. So just go out there, be as great as we know you already are.
I am super honored and proud of all the work that I've done with Johnny Walker. It's been amazing. I hope I can do something that lays groundwork for other women to come behind me one day and to just keep lifting each other up. Angel City Football Club is one of those achievements that is going to open the door for many more other female-run sports teams.
Angel City, this is y'all's time.
This is more than a song. This is music to a movement for women's equality.
Music to a movement, and goes on. And this is my last piece on Walker, because, as I said earlier, I think it's so important that you don't feel like it's done. We've done it. This is a piece of work that we did actually using an algorithm, and this is about the idea of whiskey is for everyone, and the guiding principle shouldn't be who you are, but actually which flavor you like. So we put out this piece of work. In fact, this is a company that we recently acquired, and we applied the knowledge and the technology behind this to this program that we call What's Your Whiskey? So you will be, if you ever visit us at Johnny Walker Prince Street, which I would encourage all of you to do, it's a fabulous brand home, it's a beautiful experience, you would be welcome with someone with an iPad probably, asking you a few questions about your taste preferences, questions like that. The answer to those questions around your flavor, what you really like, will determine what journey you're going to take in that brand experience. And we're applying this technology to other parts of our work, and we think this is only the beginning, because the real distinction of your choice should be what you like, what flavor you prefer, as opposed to necessarily, your provenance, your ethnicity, your gender, etc., etc. So whiskey is for everyone, really. So we keep at it, and I think one of the things that I thought is important to share, it's that what's behind the intention is actually a lot of practice. I think someone mentioned this morning. You have to prepare yourself, and you have to organize yourself to provide these results and to make sure the change does happen and is sustainable. We went at it through this framework that we put together. It's very simple, And again, we work with many people, including WFA. They've got access to all of these. So if you're interested, please come later, and we'll be happy to share with all of you. But the framework very simply talks about really what's the representation of the people that are being portrayed, what is the perspective, what's the agency, and also the characterization. Are they real human beings? Are you portraying real human beings as opposed to stereotypes? And that really allowed us to train all our marketers, more than 2,000 people at Diageo, as well as our agency partners. It also enabled us to have conversations that pull out in that conversation whether or not there are any unconscious bias, and have a conversation about that. This is so important. So this framework we have really launched throughout, and we keep improving at it. We started with gender, we've moved to ethnicity, and now we're going into disabilities within these parameters. We also, I said that we have done this work for ourselves, but very importantly, I think we opened the wings to working with a number of fabulous people. Industry partners from UN Anti-Stereotype Alliance, absolutely WFA, who is a fabulous organization that Stefan leads, and indeed you'll hear about Creative Equals, a fabulous partner that we've been working with for a number of years. Who's behind the camera? I mean, some of this fabulous work has been filmed by women. It's a huge effort. You will know that female creative directors are scarce, and we've been working it. Again, Ali will talk more about that, so I won't say more. But truly, who's behind the camera matters a lot. And indeed, through the value chain, so it's not just about the creative work per se, the production of that content, it's truly around the media in which that content is shown and more. So we have a program where we now look at actually inclusivity around our entire supply chain. And we have examined the profiles of more than nearly 2,000 suppliers to understand who is it that we're working with, and therefore how can we affect change. So with that, going back to my flywheel, I would like to talk very briefly about the next piece, keyword of this flywheel. I've talked about purpose and inclusivity. I want to mention creativity, even though we've already seen some of the creative work. But in simple words, for me, creativity is the magic that fuels this progressive growth. It really unlocks progressive growth. It makes you feel different about the things when you encounter them in that creative way. I'm a huge believer in the power of creativity to change the world. And I thought, again, I'll give you a different example this time of creativity applied not just to the work per se, to the content creation, but how that content lives in the world. And I've mentioned media, and we've said at Diageo we want to be media activists. And what do we mean by that? We said by 2030, we want 15% of our global media investment to be invested behind inclusive partners, media partners. And we've really defined that definition. What does it mean, inclusive media partners, in each country, because the circumstances may vary. But it's a bold statement, and we're really well in our way to get to that point. So let me talk about this Guinness example. Guinness in GB and in Ireland has been closely linked with rugby for many years. And in fact, is the sponsorship of this championship, you may know about this, is called Six Nations. In 2021, Six Nations launched and established the female championship as a standalone championship. And Guinness stepped in to work with this group of fabulous women rugby players. We discovered at that time that female representation in sports media was very small. In fact, globally, the number is 4%. 4% of all female sports are represented in sports media globally. Very tiny. So we worked in GB and Ireland, we made a number of initiatives, including having the profiles of these rugby players be properly represented in Wikipedia, such that when media want to find out about these players, they have more complete information. We also work with media, we work with sports hosts, we work with all the kind of important influences of that environment that you can imagine to shift the attention and really give it a proper focus. Also very importantly, We work with our partner bartenders and pub owners to ensure that during the championship, the airtime that they give at the bar to the female championship is as strong as it would be if it was the men's. So this was a successful program. I have a little video that has some of these stats, and you'll see some of the imagery. So with that, thank you. With that, I just thought, I promise you in that flywheel that there is inclusivity, creativity, and the hardest purpose, and performance is, a must-have. And so these two brands that I show you an example of today have performed. These are, you can look at this, it's public information, latest results. Johnnie Walker has grown 21%, and Guinness has grown 17% in value in the most recent sets of numbers. So we're very proud of that, but we could not have done any of that if it hadn't been for all the work with our teams and with our partners. And speaking about partners, I'll hand now over to wonderful Ali Hanan from Creative Equals.
Well, firstly, Cristina, I just wanted to say a massive thank you for inviting me to share your stage with you today. It's a real act of inclusion. And actually, firstly, I want to say that on behalf of the hundreds of women around the globe whose lives you've changed, when we heard you were CMO of the year 2023, the WhatsApp groups, oh my God, they went wild, absolutely wild. But rather than talk about our work, I'm going to show you a little bit of what we've been doing for the last 4 years.
I think we really are living in a moment where creativity needs to change. The fact that only 12% of creative directors are women is absolutely terrifying.
The challenge that we have with the creative sector is this phrase, you're only as good as your last piece of work, right? And our job actually at Creative Equals, instead of looking at CV gaps as problems, to look at them as creativity's gifts.
I want my career back. I spent 15 years of my life, made zillion sacrifices to get where I was. I wasn't ready to throw it all out. Unfortunately, I didn't even get that chance to, give it a shot.
I was thinking I'm foreign, I am black. I just kept thinking in a creative industry, I might not be taken seriously because I have no confidence.
One of the things that I worry about a lot is I'm much older than everybody else, and you do kind of feel invisible.
Tomorrow we get the briefs and I'm feeling petrified, actually.
So we have the same people working on our briefs, we get the same kind of ideas. You've all been really brave to say, no,
I'm actually going to change this and I'm going to come back to the creative industry to make a difference.
I want my daughter to know that she is a big part of the universe and she can look up and say, hey, she's participating, so I'm going to be in there too.
I feel really cherished, you know, it's a real nice warm space. I can't sort of say how thankful I am.
We're all going to crack it, we're going to make it big, we will live up to our expectations of ourselves. I surely will try.
So I hope you noticed that stat that 4 out of 5 women return to work after our program. And since that film was shot, we're just 12% of creative directors in the UK were women. That figure has now gone up to 28%, which is, yeah, thank you. It's been amazing. Which, can I say, is a lot better than the 3% of worldwide creative directors, which is what the figure was when I first started at Ogilvy back in 1999. We've also just set up the first pilot around disabled creatives in the UK, because of course the amount of disabled creators behind the camera is about 1 to 2%. It's absolutely tiny. And of course, as Cristina says, the value chain is just so important. We've been measuring Diageo's supply chain for the last 4 years around gender, race, disability, and age. And we've really pinpointed these 2 areas of disability and gender as some of the key areas that need to change. But of course, when we measure our supply chains, when we look for minority-owned businesses, we create economic inclusion when we put investment and money back into underrepresented communities. But also we both have this shared belief, and I'd like you to all write down and memorize this phrase: who makes the work shapes the work. It is just so important to have all types of different creatives at the creative table. And actually what we see is it makes better and more authentic work. And actually, when you look at the work at Cannes Lion last year in 2022, 50% of Titanium winners had diversity, equity, and inclusion at the heart of the work, and it won across almost every single category. So it's also a segue into marketing and creative excellence, as you can also see some of the brilliant work that you've shown today. And I think, working back along the marketing value chain, when we think about diversity, equity, and inclusion, at the heart of innovation, we need to be designing for all the different products and services that all sorts of different people can use. Quick case study, Microsoft. In the US, there are 30 million disabled gamers, 30 million. So they work with the community, collaborating to create the first adaptive controller. There is a phrase when it comes to creating with the community, which is nothing about us without us. So again, thinking about how you integrate the community into the way that we design is really essential. And of course, our argument would be, what if the adaptive controller is the controller that most people can use? What if it was the only controller that Microsoft could make? I mean, that's just a little provocation in the room today. How do we design universal design? It's a key part of sustainability. And I think going back into purpose, Christina's really clearly outlined what happens when inclusion is part of brand purpose, and it helps unlock what we call equity audiences. And a great case study of this, again, you'll hear from Fabrice later, is the work that Reckitt's been doing around the Nurofen brand. So, obviously Nurofen is a pain relief drug, and the huge challenge that we have in this sector is that women's pain is taken half as seriously as men's pain. This leads to a lot of misdiagnosis, and it has a serious consequence for women's health. And one thing I love about this campaign, which is called See My Pain, is it's not just a comms campaign. They're taking it out to medical professionals to really educate them in the world of bias. And of course, that led us straight back up to SDG Goal 3 around health and well-being and gender equality. So, the question to you all, because this is such a powerful room, is what if you could really think about taking diversity, equity, inclusion into your business strategy, into your commerce strategy? And I think just a couple of things just to quickly note. It's also about, your audience strategy. Okay, quick hands up. Who over in this room has an over 50s marketing strategy? Anybody? Okay, a few people, brilliant, good to see. So a little stat for you all. When we think about sometimes the collective biases of this industry, here's a fact for you, and I want you to write this down as well. 1 in 6 of us is going to be over the age of 65 by 2030. We have a massive aging population, and with that, a huge potential for commercial growth. And of course, 1.2 billion people around the world are black, and we see a lot of colorism still, we need to really address race representation within our advertising. 15% of us are disabled, and actually, as we grow older, 40% of us will become disabled. And I just want you to look around the room and imagine that is actually all these people over here will become disabled. So a massive amount of us will gain a disability. But of course, back in the world of advertising, we only see 2% of disabled people represented in the ads, 2%. And of course, a lot of the ads are made about disability. It's not just that this is a way that we exist in the world. When it comes to Gen Z, well, they're a really interesting bunch. And I was having a good chat with Sarah Denby, who is the executive director of the Unstereotype Alliance, part of UN Women the other day. One of the biggest challenges we have in the gender equality space at the moment is the regressive attitudes of young men who are following toxic masculinity influences like Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson. So this is a massive challenge for young men right now across the globe. And of course, the other side of Gen Z is that 15% of them are identifying as queer. There is this whole exploration around gender, and of course, they care about all that it is in LGBTQIA+. It really, really matters. So again, in terms of your audience strategies, in terms of the way that we look at the way that society is shape-shifting and growing, there are so many opportunities to tap into in terms of representation. So just to quickly finish, Cristina and I would like to leave you with this thought. And the big what if to all of you in the room today is, what if we could create a legacy as a community through what we're calling the new ROI, and that is the return on inclusion. The return on inclusion. Thank you, and it really matters. It matters for our people, it matters for our employees. It shapes better business, and it shapes a better, more powerful society where everybody is seen and heard and treated with dignity and respect, because ultimately, human stories connect us all. And back in the world of that film that you saw, by the way, Tajali, Tato, and Bernadette now have kick-ass director roles across the sector. They have gone on to have incredibly successful careers, thanks to Cristina. And I just wanted to say, Cristina, thank you for everything that you do. You've completely set the bar. You're setting the industry standards. And I'm going to invite everybody, because to be CMO of the Year is a huge honor. I'm going to invite you all to stand up, and I'd like to give you to give her a standing ovation. Everybody up! Everybody up! Woo!
Thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Look, there's nothing else for me to say. We're standing between here and lunch, but as they say here in Turkey, WFA.